pretty tight handler defense from Scandal. They've now getting some yards up with Chen. Over to Johnson. Johnson shoots for the end zone. That is floating, gives plenty of time for the defense to come in underneath. We're still not on.
Yeah, she released that with a little more inside-out edge than I think she intended to. I think something with a little more power and driven with some outside-in edge would have been really difficult for a defender to make a play on.
So Scandal, their D-line offense now. Kowalski looking for that reset, and the mark was kind of following, ended up getting that hand block.
Nice work there by Sarah Taggart. That's why coaches preach, move your feet, be active, be adaptive. It's so much easier when you're tired late in a point to just lunge and throw your whole weight one direction, but if you just work a little harder and move your feet.
It's 6-5. So right on the goal line, Maggie Chen, she puts that up, and we little delayed, but Lindgren with the goal. That will take it to half. Can we come in, if we come back, can we come in not during halftime? just saying. Welcome back to Broomfield, Colorado. We are currently at halftime. Denver will reset to Frankie. Tornquist spots a wide open Hannah Boone underneath.
Yeah, a lot of downfield switching from the Molly Brown defenders, and I think just some missed execution there. Hannah Boone leading the disc a little too far to that inside lane, out of reach for her receiver.
Lori over to Becaithley. That strike not in. Around to Becaithley. And that big step out. Chastain overshot again.
Definitely agree with the idea of changing the point of attack, dumping and swinging and continuing to move the disc laterally around the end zone, so you're shifting your release points and keeping the defense on their toes. At some point, you just got to make the throw.
And it looks like Jessie Schaffner called a foul on herself there. So Frankie will pick up the disc.
Schaffner, another former teammate of these Scandal players.
And Zhao with the huck, looking for Byers, and Byers cannot connect. She's visibly upset.
A little too casual there. I think she tried to attack that with one hand. Probably could have bodied out and clap caught it, or at least attacked it with two hands, but hey, hindsight's 20/20, right?
Exactly. Now Lori underneath. That backhand shot, looking for Schaffner. That's floating right overhead. Inbounds, but not in the end zone. Leading backhand over to Minor. And despite some turnovers back and forth, that's a Molly Brown score.
Yeah, if I'm the offensive coordinator for Molly Brown, a couple takeaways from that point. You know, some of those earlier shots, maybe not the most possession-oriented or conservative looks. Probably had a little more time to let the offense find structure and gain flow up the field after they had regained possession. But if anything, credit to them for persevering through the length of that point. It's tough to compete out here in these hot conditions. I know we had things approaching 100 degrees yesterday, and we're getting there the closer we get to high noon here in Colorado.
And it's really interesting, myself being from Texas, so used to the heat. However, I will say, having played in a lot of tournaments in Colorado, it's deceptive because it's so dry, you're not sweating as much.
Right.
So sometimes players fall into the trap of not hydrating
right.
when they do need to replenish those fluids just as often.
No, and it's so easy to think that you're doing fine, in great shape. You've got to, all teams have to have the buddy system in place. Everybody keeping an eye out on each other, making sure they're drinking their fluids, making sure they're going to the bathroom, as silly as it sounds. That's what you got to do to make sure you're ready to compete at this level.
As Tom Herman, the University of Texas football coach, says, we want championship levels of hydration. That pull lands in. Lord slides to catch the first pass. Finds Strick inside. Strick really that activation cutter underneath. And call on the field, pick called. And disc back into play. Far side. Molly Brown, the off-handlers playing some of the lane spacing there.
Yeah, really intentional sag, trying to clog those lanes, make those handlers second guess their releases.
Strick sees Lord open inside. Looking for Oldershaw. And that might be a casualty of the altitude, that disc sailing out.
Yeah, also just got to have a little more field awareness, understanding that you've progressed past half field. Maybe don't have to rip it quite as hard. That inside out shot to that near side lane is always really difficult to execute. Maybe not the highest percentage look. Speaking of inside out shots, Sarah Pesh getting things started with an outside in shot to the inside out lane.
And then the outside in, looking in the end zone for Bacher, but just dropped a little bit too early. So now Scandal with another opportunity on offense, needing to work the full 70. Ross. And miscue. This gives Molly Brown favorable field position with that huck they had on their previous possession. Schaffner picking up. And that's a goal and a break for Molly Brown. Pesh with the score.
Yeah, it looked like Scandal just got kind of bogged down in some repetitive, indecisive handler movement when they were looking at their resets. Things weren't exactly where they needed them to be. A couple of cutters were kind of dragging themselves all the way over and dropping back into the handler set when they needed to clear out. And when you're bogged down in the shadow of your own goal line, spacing is more important than ever. That's the only way you're going to generate those lanes to gain yardage and work further down the field. Learning opportunities for the Scandal offense here.
So I played women's the past few years, and of course, being from Dallas, Molly Brown is in our region. And being on the D line, we would have to guard. We had one, well, for a few D points, we'll say, again, D line points. However, I remember talking with the Molly Brown defense, and they said guarding our handlers is the worst. Our handlers are so good, but that's why our handler defense is so good, because we have to practice against the best.
No, and that's a great recipe for improvement, for challenge, for inspiring competitive nature within your own team. You always want to be pushing yourself to the next level. And you know, when you get teammates who have such high quality and they're able to drive the level up at practice, it can only mean good things for young players and the team as a whole.
And Tang slides to stop that roll. Price picking up. Isolation in that horizontal stack. Now working it up the far sideline. Gorman. Gorman looks for Sue. It's still live, but that layout D from Molly Brown, Davlin keeps that conversion from happening.
Yeah, Melissa Devlin, a second-year Molly Brown player, earning her chops as part of this D line.
And now Dixon with the disc. Kind of high release backhand over to Davlin. Continuing. Taggart. And Scandal with the backhand force. So Dixon puts up that huck. And what a catch. However,
we had one observer ruling that that was a catch in the end zone for a goal.
And watch in slow motion. Leave a comment if you think that was a goal. And observers confer no goal. Extremely athletic play there, though.
Yeah, great work to body out the defender and then make a trailing edge play, and unfortunate first throw turnover there from Kowalski.
So now Molly Brown on the goal line. There's Dixon. Molly Brown score.
Dixon, perhaps the most fiery addition to this Molly Brown roster. Very passionate, inspired player coming over, as you mentioned earlier, from Philadelphia AMP. And there's so many personalities that this Molly Brown coaching staff has to incorporate into the same D-line, the same O-line, the same unit. And whereas some players are a little more conservative in nature, they're definitely interested in finding ways to perfect everyone's role or put them in the most opportune role to succeed. And Dixon, one of those players who's always going to be bringing fire on defense and pushing the pace when needed.
And watching her on AMP last year, she had the most amazing sideline talk, kind of keeping the team really up. But then you do have all of these different characters. Jessie Schaffner, who plays with so much heart as well. It's just so neat to then, to your point, to kind of see that come together. So Molly Brown taking a 5-point lead, their largest so far of the game. They have 10. DC Scandal 5. And we have folks tuning in from Toronto, from Massachusetts, from Nova, assuming that's Nova Scotia.
Could be Northern Virginia.
It could be Northern Virginia.
Where Scandal practices
that
frequently.
That makes more sense. And Scandal trying to get those inside looks to gain yards. Instead, handler swings. Lord right back over to Ratcliffe. Finds a strike from Ross. And that inside strike cut, O'Connor to Strick. And when Scandal can kind of keep that momentum going, they gain a lot of yards. But once Molly Brown can kind of set up their defense, very hard. Keep continuing. But there's Strick once again for the goal.
Yeah, I don't know. As a defender, your number one responsibility is defending that forced side cone. Dixon, the fiery defender, is not going to be happy with herself after that one. But again, credit to Strick, who's having a huge impact for this Scandal offense.
And really a lot of credit to that Scandal offense. Lots of swings that just make it more difficult. The more passes you throw, the more likely you're going to turn it over. But what do you think were some of their keys to then gain yardage upfield?
I think their handlers were really decisive in attacking the upfield space. They weren't content taking backfield resets that lost yardage. They kept attacking upfield, even if that meant that their throwers had to squeeze things into tighter inside-out lanes or break the mark. And once they committed to that, it was really tough for the Molly Brown defense to recover, because once you catch one of those upline things slightly off to the break side, those breaks can cascade further down the break side when the marks are not set and the defenders haven't had a chance to recover. So would love to see more of that from the Scandal offense as they look to keep this game within reach.
So it's 10-6, Denver. It's a game to 13. The last round of play yesterday was cut short due to lightning. So that truncated the rounds so far today. This, of course, the women's semifinal.
Doing some scoreboard watching. Molly Brown is going to be playing, as you mentioned earlier, Emmy, the winner of the Riot Phoenix semifinal, taking place over on the adjacent field here. And Riot currently leading Phoenix 8-7, just out of half over there.
You have great vision.
Hey, you know, sometimes my eyes work. Sometimes there are binoculars that can help you out. But I've been keeping a close eye on that scoreboard too, just so we could give everyone context as they're tuning in with us.
So Molly Brown swinging with a striking Bacher. Will continue that. Pesh over to Ives. Inside, Schaffner. Quick release right away to Minor. That's a Molly Brown score.
And Molly Brown loves to push the pace well. We saw their offense attacking with some handler movement and then again just cascading across the field once they got 1 or 2 breaks off. And you give Jessie Schaffner any window and she's going to get a quick release and attack that window as quickly as she can, just like she did on that shot to the end zone for Liza Minor.
Her first step acceleration is nearly unstoppable in this division.
Absolutely, and there are so many players on this line who have similar skill sets and similar quickness. You think about Claire Chastain in the handler set, you think about Paige Applegate in the handler set. Downfield, Liza Minor has a different kind of quickness, but also a really powerful first step. Lots for opponents to match up with and game plan for defensively.
So we have someone tuning in from Nigeria. I think that so far is the farthest person farthest away tuning in. Let us know if there's somebody farther away than Nigeria tuning in. He's looking for a pickup in Abuja, so help him out.
If anybody's got some connections, the comments are open.
So 11 for Molly Brown, 2 away from the finals, but Scandal really holding their own. The pull is a roller that lands in, goes out of bounds to set up this trap on our near sideline.
And this is the 3rd time we've seen this game. Molly Brown definitely trying to perfect a zone that they're going to want to pull out at the World Ultimate Club Championships, which start next week.
So Scandal is able to work it up this near sideline, and then with a hammer thrown to the end zone, convert fairly quickly.
Yeah, killer instinct there by Laurel Oldershaw. Really nice execution on that hammer. And on that point, to be honest, the Scandal offense just took what Molly Brown was giving them. There were a few 5-yard up lines that didn't appear that threatening, but they took them to keep getting in a more and more threatening position, inch closer to the red zone. And just wonderful vision on the part of Oldershaw, finding Strick in the back of the end zone there.
Perfectly put hammer as well. So that gives Scandal their 7th point. They still trail Denver with Denver's 11, Scandal's 7. We do have more Ultimate coming up the rest of the day. After this, we're switching over to the men's final. And then following will be the mixed final. So those semifinals are currently happening on the field behind us. We have Johnny Bravo up 10-9 over High Five. And then Pittsburgh Temper, a 16 seed coming into the tournament. They currently lead Sockeye 11-7.
A lot of surprises in the men's division. Teams that were seeded lower, that we thought were going to be rebuilding, that have had tougher years in recent memory, showing out at this first tournament. And we see Becca Miller put up a deep shot here.
So one-on-one in the end zone. I think Lindsay Sue got a hand on that disc. It was falling fast, though. That was intended for Chelsea Tuig. And now Kowalski will walk up for Scandal. Sue immediately pulls out 2 defenders. That isolates Allen open underneath. Continue to Sue. Recognizing they need to score and score quick. Here's Gorman to the end zone. That's a Scandal. That is a Scandal break.
Yeah, I was about to say, as Kowalski picked up on the goal line, this is kind of a must convert if Scandal's going to stay in this game, because they're 2 points away from being eliminated from this tournament. And great discipline and spacing by the Scandal Cutters, giving each other clearly defined and well-spaced lanes to work into.
I love Sue making a decisive, it looks like a decisive deep cut, pulls out 2 Molly Brown defenders, which leaves her teammate wide open underneath.
And this is great coaching material for coaches trying to instruct younger players on the fundamentals of cutting, because there are a lot of times when you're working in those cutting lanes when you're not going to get the disc and you're going to feel like you may be cutting for no reason. But as you work quickly and as you work decisively, you make space for your teammates. You drag defenders out of position.
And Sue, even though she did not get the disc there, she used that deep cut to come back under, and then that put her in power position for the score.
We basically need to create another Rise Up episode out of Scandal's D-line offense on that point. I think that's what we've got.
Exactly. I think Ben Wiggins would approve of that offense there.
Yes.
So Scandal takes the timeout. I think that is another very veteran timeout call for Scandal. What do you say if you're the Scandal coach right now?
Well, I think Molly Brown has been quick to pull the trigger on a number of opportunities, whether it's a deep shot that's open for a split second or a break shot that's open for a split second. So if anything, I just want to keep flustering the Molly Brown looks, make the marks incredibly active so that those shots that they think might be open for a split second, maybe they've got to think about them more, or maybe the release comes off a little more rushed than they would like because the mark shifts at the last second. I'd like to see holding a force but aggressive and active on the mark to fluster and pressure those Molly Brown throwers.
So crucial break situation for Scandal. However, if Molly Brown converts, they're now within game point. So pretty crucial point. Not that any point's not crucial, but
right
here, especially in this semifinal play, Molly Brown immediately centers.
And we see a zone here from the Scandal defense. We've got one chaser up front, O'Connor, sharing the chasing duties with Frankie. A nice seamless transition into person-to-person defense. Just slowing down that first isolation look that Molly Brown loves to use so often.
And that swing bounces off the hands of Chen. It was coming in hot.
Yeah.
So Scandal will take on their far sideline.
It looked like Chen got her hands on it for the clap catch, but then a little wind got underneath it.
So immediate shot right away. Sarah Ito, who was not here to start the game, and that is a Scandal break.
Talk about making a strong first impression and statement on this game. Ito warming up, had to arrive late due to some personal reasons, but she's part of that veteran core that's still here, helping to guide this new generation of Scandal players that are rising up through the ranks, and that deep playmaking ability is something she's known for and she's garnered acclaim for over the past few seasons, and those are the types of plays that they're going to need from her if Scandal's going to keep crawling back into this game.
So that zone look was effective, especially for a few passes and then switching into person. How do you think Molly Brown, do you think that they adjust what they're doing as a result?
You know, it's really interesting to hear Alicia Dixon in the background chanting, "Our game, our time." You know, I don't think they need any crazy play call, some crazy string that we haven't seen before. I think they just need to be disciplined with their handler movement and go through their looks. Look, this is a top 4 offense in the country. They found themselves in the national conversation, in the world championship conversation with these personnel. You just got to go out there and run your sets, and if you have to turn to your second option, that's why you've practiced it.
So Applegate to Chastain. Swings over to Lori, continues to Kalpek, back to Lori, over to Chastain. Chastain straight to the end zone. Minor was there, and that puts Molly Brown with their 12th point. If they can get a break here, that's game.
Yeah, some miscommunication there from the Scandal defenders. They had 3 defenders covering some downfield space, but no one was marking the deepest receiver, Liza Minor, wide open. Claire Chastain's going to pull the trigger and hit that every time.
And Chastain just has such a smooth release for her backhand as well. Really, no matter the distance.
No coincidence, she was a Callahan winner earlier in her career, a camp counselor now, teaching younger players how to throw, how to play. Just a great example for younger players everywhere to emulate.
I love in the comments, apparently, according to pickupultimate.com, the closest games to Nigeria is in Ghana.
You hate to hear that, because that's a little more than I bet our original commenter was hoping to travel for a pickup game.
But have some other folks from Minnesota, some Florida fans as well. This, of course, the earlier stage of the Triple Crown Tour for USA Ultimate. Will continue on at the US Open. And there's that pull, big outside in. And looking for those yards underneath. Ross to Strick. Let's go around to Ross. Straight up the line is Lord. Far to the far sideline, Jesse O'Connor. And Oldershaw lays out for it, but not there. If Molly Brown converts here, they've secured a trip to the finals. There's that backhand, and straight to the end zone. That's game.
Paige Applegate, a powerful, experienced thrower. When she's got a receiver that wide open, she'll pull the trigger every time. And again, it's really tough to understand how the Scandal defense broke down so significantly and left another receiver wide open deep.
So Molly Brown will go to the finals. On the far field, it looks like Riot is up 12-7.
Eagle eyes at me. You've got them too.
I'm trying to channel your eyesight. So that game is nearly complete, but it appears that it will be a Molly Brown Riot in the final.
And looking at the men's division, Johnny Bravo has topped off high five, so they're going to be playing the winner
of Temper and
Patrol
and Sockeye.
Temper and Sockeye.
And we do not have an updated score on that field, but stay tuned to the USA Ultimate Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter all day, because next up we have the men's final here at the Pro Elite Championship. For Evan Toner, I'm Emmy Fitzgerald. Thanks for watching.